The sky was dark with smoke, flames licking the rooftops while terrified Londoners hurled their belongings into the rivers. In just a matter of hours, the city lost nearly everything except its secrets. But what if London's history wasn't just about monarchs and rulers, but about fire, puppets, underground trains, and weddings beside prisons? London has always been more than a capital. It is a living diary, scribbled with danger, rebellion, invention, and tradition. Behind the familiar skyline lie stories so strange they seem fictional. The day gunpowder protected the city, or when traders invented the stock market over cups of coffee. In this video, we explore 9 unforgettable events that shaped the London we think we know. Every one of them occurred. Every one left a mark. If this content speaks to you, don't let the story end here. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and help us keep these voices alive. Subscribe for more journeys through time, and together, let's ensure these cities are never forgotten. Without further ado, let's continue. September 2nd, the London Fire, 1666. A single flame escaped from a bakery on Pudding Lane, and within minutes, the city was ablaze. Houses collapsed, church bells melted, and the wind fed the fire like a living creature. By nightfall, Londoners fled through choking smoke, clutching what little they could carry. The fire raged for 4 consecutive days, consuming 13,000 homes and 87 churches, including the original St. Paul's Cathedral. Amid the chaos, salvation came from an unlikely source: the British Navy. They packed gunpowder into buildings ahead of the flames, creating controlled explosions to halt the spread. The very instrument of war became a desperate shield. Gradually, the fire ran out of fuel and diminished. That week changed everything. The fire didn't just destroy buildings, it forced London to reinvent itself. Narrow medieval streets were replaced with wider, more fireproof designs. Yet beneath the ashes, a deeper lesson endured: resilience. London burned but did not vanish. It adapted, rebuilt, and remembered. Most people associate the London Underground with daily commuting, but beneath the bustling streets lay a forgotten network devoted solely to mail. In 1927, the Post Office Railway began running from Paddington to Whitechapel. It carried letters, not people, through narrow tunnels. Driverless electric trains sped under the city, stopping at sorting offices concealed from view. For 76 years, it operated unseen, quietly powering London's communication. In 2003, the system was closed, but its story lives on. Visitors to the Postal Museum can ride a miniature train, hearing echoes of a time when mail raced beneath their feet. It's not just nostalgia, it's proof that even the smallest systems once propelled the city forward. Before skyscrapers and digital trading screens, there was Jonathan's Coffee House in 1698. Merchants gathered in the smoky, bustling cafe to exchange rumors, ink deals, and track prices over steaming mugs. Without realizing it, they laid the foundations of global finance. It wasn't called a stock exchange then, it was simply where business happened. As gatherings intensified, the group moved to Sweeting's Alley, eventually forming what became the Stock Exchange. London's financial power began with conversation, not institutions. Trade shaped identity as much as wealth. Today, the city is filled with glittering towers, but the spirit of those wooden tables and heated debates still resonates. Before London's buses turned iconic red, the streets were a chaotic rainbow. Operators painted their vehicles in every color: blue, yellow, green. By the mid-19th century, over 400 horse-drawn buses clogged the streets. Passengers struggled to know destinations. To reduce confusion, companies coordinated routes and schedules. The London General Omnibus Company painted its fleet red. Red endured, becoming identity and culture. Visibility in fog and rain turned into a symbol recognized worldwide. The red double-decker is more than transport, it is a postcard, a memory. But there was a time when that fame was uncertain. Covent Garden, 1662. Crowds laughed at a peculiar figure with a hooked nose and booming voice. It was Mr. Punch, performing in England for the first time, inspired by Italy's Pulcinella. Punch and Judy were neither royalty nor heroes. They were loud, ridiculous, and spoke to daily life. Samuel Pepys documented the performance, giving us the earliest record. Punch became a reflection of London's humor. Dark, chaotic, defiant. He fought, he lost, he returned, unapologetically real. Today, West End theaters host sold-out shows with global stars, but it began with a puppet in a square. Sometimes a city's soul thrives in street corners, and London's first punchline still echoes. Before it was London, it was Londinium, a Roman settlement along the River Thames almost 2,000 years ago. By 200 AD, the Romans built a defensive stone wall nearly 3 kilometers long. Sections remain, hidden among modern towers and offices. You can trace the wall from the Tower of London to the Millennium Bridge. Plaques mark former city limits where soldiers once stood guard. Near Billingsgate, a Roman bathhouse lies beneath modern streets. In a city of constant change, the wall reminds us what endures. London was defended before it was famous, and fragments of that defense remain underfoot. Wooden roads. In 19th century London, parts of the city were paved with wood to soften traffic noise. Cobblestones echoed too loudly, disturbing sleep and conversation. Wooden blocks muffled sound, making streets calmer, even elegant. But rain, rot, and fire proved stronger than innovation. Today, near the London Eye, remnants of these planks survive, half-buried, forgotten, a reminder that even in progress, London listened to its people. Between 1613 and 1754, thousands of couples married beside Fleet Prison. Known as clandestine marriages, these ceremonies were fast, cheap, and often irregular. When the Church of England tightly controlled matrimony, Fleet offered speed, privacy, and freedom. Over 100,000 marriages occurred there, some legitimate, some fraudulent. Street preachers and imprisoned clergymen officiated for a few coins, sometimes with no witnesses. It was London's version of a Vegas wedding, romantic, risky, defiant. In a city of protocol, this was rebellion wrapped in vows. 1888. Jack the Ripper. Fog clung low over Whitechapel, curling around alleys like curtains. A killer moved in darkness, silent, vanishing before screams could rise. The press named him Jack the Ripper, but his identity remains unknown. Victims were vulnerable women, crimes horrifying even by Victorian standards. Police chased shadows. Letters claiming responsibility arrived. Some real, most fake. Jack disappeared after 5 confirmed attacks, leaving fear, silence, and unanswered questions. Today, Whitechapel hosts cafes, galleries, and tours attempting to explain the inexplicable. The city has changed, but his shadow remains. The sky above London was choked with smoke, flames licking the rooftops as terrified citizens hurled their belongings into the river, desperate to save anything they could. In just a few hours, the city lost almost everything, leaving only secrets behind. But London's story is more than crowns and rulers. It is also a tale of fire, puppets, underground trains, and weddings beside prisons. The city has always been alive, scribbled with danger, rebellion, invention, and tradition. Beneath the familiar skyline lie stories so strange they feel like fiction. The day gunpowder protected the city, or when merchants brewed the first stock market over cups of coffee. These events, each unforgettable, shaped the London we recognize today. On the 2nd of September, 1666, the Great Fire of London began. A single flame slipped from a bakery on Pudding Lane and quickly grew into an uncontrollable blaze. Houses collapsed, church bells melted, and the wind fed the fire like a living creature. By nightfall, Londoners fled through dense smoke, clutching what little they could salvage. The inferno raged for 4 days, consuming 13,000 homes and 87 churches, including the original St. Paul's Cathedral. Amid the chaos, the British Navy executed an unusual plan: controlled explosions using gunpowder to create fire breaks. The instrument of war became a shield, slowing the blaze until it finally died out. The fire changed everything. Medieval streets were replaced with wider, fireproof thoroughfares. The ashes left a lesson that endured beyond brick and timber: resilience. London burned, yes, but it did not disappear. It adapted, rebuilt, and remembered. The scars became part of its identity. Beneath the bustling streets, history moved quietly. Most people think of the London Underground as merely a commuter system, but for decades, it was a hidden network devoted entirely to mail. In 1927, the Post Office Railway ran from Paddington to Whitechapel, transporting letters through narrow tunnels by driverless electric trains. For 76 years, it operated unseen beneath the city, stopping at secret sorting offices. Closed in 2003, part of it survives in the Postal Museum, where visitors ride a miniature train and glimpse a quieter, hidden heartbeat of the city. Long before skyscrapers and trading screens, merchants gathered at Jonathan's Coffee House in 1698. Over smoky air and steaming mugs, they exchanged rumors, inked deals, and tracked the value of goods. Unknowingly, they laid the groundwork for global finance. The gatherings eventually moved to Sweeting's Alley, evolving into the stock exchange. Today, the city's towering financial district still echoes with the conversations of those wooden tables, heated debates, and cups of coffee. London's buses were not always red. Once, each operator painted their vehicles a different color: blue, green, yellow, causing confusion on crowded streets. By the mid-19th century, with over 400 horse-drawn buses clogging the roads, companies coordinated routes and timetables. The London General Omnibus Company painted its fleet red. That color endured, becoming a symbol of identity, visibility, and culture. The red double-decker is now iconic worldwide, but there was a time when it was simply a practical solution to chaos. Crowds first gathered in Covent Garden in 1662 to watch Mr. Punch, a puppet with a hooked nose and boisterous voice, perform in England for the first time. Inspired by Italy's Pulcinella, Punch and Judy were neither royalty nor heroes. They were comic, chaotic reflections of daily life. Samuel Pepys documented their debut, providing the earliest record of the show. Punch embodied London's humor: dark, defiant, unpolished, yet beloved. Today, West End theaters host glittering performances, but it began with a single puppet shouting in a public square. Sometimes, the soul of a city lives in its streets, not its halls. Before it was London, it was Londinium, a Roman settlement nearly 2,000 years ago along the Thames. By 200 AD, the Romans built a stone wall almost 3 kilometers long. Sections survive, hidden among modern office towers. You can trace the wall from the Tower of London to the Millennium Bridge, and near Billingsgate, even a Roman bathhouse lies beneath the streets. The wall reminds us that in a city of constant change, some things endure. In the 19th century, some London streets were paved with wood. Cobblestones were noisy under the clatter of hooves, disturbing sleep and conversation. Wooden blocks absorbed sound, creating quieter, calmer streets. Over time, rain, rot, and fire overcame these innovations, but remnants of wooden roads remain near landmarks like the London Eye, half-buried reminders of how the city listened to its people. Between 1613 and 1754, Fleet Prison hosted thousands of clandestine marriages. Couples wed beside the prison to escape the Church of England's strict control over matrimony. Over 100,000 ceremonies occurred there, some legitimate, some fraudulent. Street preachers and imprisoned clergy officiated for coins, sometimes without witnesses. Fleet's loophole offered speed, privacy, and freedom. These clandestine weddings were a rebellion of love against the rules of a city obsessed with protocol. In 1888, Jack the Ripper haunted Whitechapel. Fog curled low around the alleyways, masking a killer who struck silently and vanished before anyone could cry out. 5 victims, maybe more, fell prey to his crimes, terrifying even by Victorian standards. Letters claimed responsibility, some genuine, most fabricated. Jack disappeared, leaving a city wrapped in fear, silence, and unanswered questions. Today, Whitechapel hosts cafes, galleries, and walking tours, but his shadow endures, a reminder that history doesn't always end neatly. Life in London has always thrived in layers, polished facades above soot-darkened streets, hidden stories beneath the surface. Every road, bus, wall, and puppet tells a story. These 9 events are more than trivia. They reveal how Londoners lived, feared, and dreamed. From wooden roads to hidden railways, the city's past still whispers, suggesting that London is ever evolving. Beyond these major events, everyday life left its own mark. Market stalls overflowed with second-hand books, tin cans without labels, and shoes too small or too large. Street vendors called their prices, played harmonicas, and shouted promotions. Children traded panini stickers in playgrounds, while teenagers lingered outside record shops, hoping to be noticed. Fish and chips wrapped in paper, sausage rolls steaming in vinegar, and the smell of roast dinners on Sundays shaped memories just as much as grand historical events. Even leisure carried historical echoes. In seaside towns like Blackpool, Butlins, or Skegness, families packed board games, raincoats, and tinned soup into rented chalets. Coin-operated arcade machines offered fleeting victories, candy floss mixed with salt water, and sand spilled from suitcases for weeks afterward. At home, evenings ended with candles, cups of tea, and the rhythmic hum of a house settling. No screens, no distractions, just the ordinary magic of daily life. Music, too, defined the era. T-Rex, Bowie, and The Clash poured from radios in kitchens, market stalls, and passing cars. Children sang into hairbrushes, scrawled band logos on schoolbooks, and paused forks mid-bite during Coronation Street cliffhangers. Music wasn't background, it was identity. Life moved slowly, deliberately. Walks to the shops, queues for the newspaper, interactions with neighbors, and notes or postcards instead of texts and emails. Repetition offered comfort, familiar faces, scents, routines. Rainy days meant board games, dens under tables, ghost stories, and laughter echoing through narrow hallways. Outside, streets became playgrounds, and every bump, fence, or wall carried significance. Even chores, like weekly trips to the laundrette, became a communal ritual, blending strangers' lives into the hum of the city. London's history is stitched from resilience, invention, humor, rebellion, and daily life. From fires that reshaped the city to secret railways that moved letters unseen, from coffeehouses birthing global finance to buses and puppets shaping culture, from clandestine marriages to unsolved mysteries, London lives in its stories. And for those who walk its streets, listen to its echoes, and notice the details underfoot, the city remains alive, ever-changing, endlessly fascinating. The sky over London was black with smoke, flames licking rooftops as terrified citizens threw whatever they could into the Thames, trying to salvage possessions that suddenly felt meaningless. He wasn't polite, but he was real and adored. Today, theaters in the West End sell out performances with global stars, but it began with a single puppet shouting in a public square, proving that the soul of a city can reside in its streets. Before London, there was Londinium, a Roman settlement nearly 2,000 years ago along the Thames. By 200 AD, the Romans enclosed the city with a stone wall almost 3 kilometers long. Sections survive, hidden among glass towers. You can trace the wall from the Tower of London to the Millennium Bridge, and near Billingsgate, a Roman bathhouse lies beneath the streets. Amid constant change, the wall reminds us what remains. In the 19th century, parts of London were paved with wood to reduce the noise of horses clattering on cobblestones. Wooden roads absorbed sound, softening chaos and bringing temporary calm. Rain, rot, and fire eventually overcame this innovation, but fragments remain, hidden near landmarks like the London Eye. Even in progress, London listened to those who walked its streets. Between 1613 and 1754, Fleet Prison hosted clandestine marriages. Couples wed beside the prison, bypassing the Church of England's control. Over 100,000 ceremonies took place, some real, some fraudulent. Street preachers and imprisoned clergy officiated for coins, sometimes without witnesses. Fleet offered speed, privacy, and freedom, a rebellion of love in a city obsessed with protocol. In 1888, Jack the Ripper haunted Whitechapel. Fog clung to alleyways as a killer struck silently, vanishing before anyone could cry out. 5 women, maybe more, were murdered. Letters claimed responsibility, some genuine, most fabricated. The press named him Jack the Ripper, but no one ever found him. Whitechapel remains filled with cafes, galleries, and tours, but his shadow endures, a reminder that history does not always end neatly. Life in London was also about ordinary rhythms. Market stalls overflowed with second-hand books, unlabeled tins, and shoes of every size. Vendors shouted, played harmonicas, and offered bargains. Children traded panini stickers while teenagers loitered outside record shops. Fish and chips wrapped in paper, steaming sausage rolls, and the smell of Sunday roast dinners formed memories as powerful as historical events. If these memories moved you, don't let the story end here. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and help us keep these voices alive. Subscribe for more journeys through time, and together, let's ensure these cities are never forgotten. See you next time.